What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. In this video, we're finally going to be knocking out the manual transmission swap in the Jzx100 Mark II Tour V. It has been a long and anticipated video, but I finally have about 99% of everything I need for the swap. I'm currently just waiting on a OEM Toyota cleavage pin for the clutch and then a custom-made clutch line that goes from the master straight to the slave, and that should be in here the next 2 or 3 days. But definitely in this video, the Mark II is finally going to be manual transmissions. I'm incredibly stoked. Again, it's been a little over a year in the making. I've had these parts forever, but I will be doing my absolute best to show you all step by step in full detail how to do the swap. I'm pretty confident I can knock this out myself in my garage. I will be using quick jacks opposed to jack stands, so that'll make my life significantly easier. But I read up on the swap through multiple forum pages, and I've watched like 6 or 7 videos on the swap, and honestly this looks pretty straightforward. And before we begin, just want to give a huge shout out to these individuals, and also hit them up too if you want to knock out the swap as OEM as possible. First off, just want to give a huge shout out to Alex at Sushi Had Me Like for sourcing me almost every nut, bolt, line, and gasket from Japan, straight from Toyota, as long as the brand new Jzx100 R154. He'll give you a great price. Let him know that I sent you. And just want to give a shout out to Jason Smith at Japan Auto Parts Shop for sourcing me the Agora or Orc clutch, the twin plate that we'll be using for the swap. We will also be doing a pull to push conversion on the R154. So be sure to hit up those 2 individuals to get essentially any part that you need from Japan or just around the world. As mentioned, the gearbox we will be using is a brand new Jzx100 R154. Got the OEM wiring harness. Splicing into this should be pretty straightforward. Got the speed sensor, all of the inspection covers, and all the nuts and bolts for the bell housing as well. And over here, we have our assembled clutch master and clutch pedal assembly. Went ahead and knocked this out this morning. It was pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions, please let me know. We have also our manual brake pedal. We will be swapping out a couple of plastic grommets and bolts from the auto to this. We have our OEM transmission mount with a Cooney's polyurethane mount insert. Manual dead pedal. Of course, we have our rear main seal. I'm 100% guaranteed confident that mine is leaking. And then again, we have new hardware for the bell housing. And then some extra bolts. And then in here, this stuff up here is for the pull clutch. We don't need like the bearing, fork, slave, and then they also sent me all the clips as well and bearings. So if you need this, let me know. I'll sell to you pretty cheap. And then we have the half shaft assembly for the front. Decided to go with this opposed to a solid 1-piece aluminum because this is significantly stronger. And then in this box here, we have all the interior goodies. We have a manual cluster surround, brand new shifter surround, shift boot cover. I think this is for the shift boots. Another part of the shift boot. And then here we have the fiberglass trans tunnel insert. I just need to get some Pine Bond for this because we will be cutting into the transmission tunnel to get everything to fit. And then over here we have our Agora 559 DSE twin plate clutch with the push conversion. It's funny, this is a Nissan Slave. This is good for up to, I believe, 500 foot-pounds of torque. It has been tested for upwards to more, so this clutch is gonna handle everything we throw at it. Serial 9 blessed me with a shift knob. Went with red. We have our OS Gaikin full metal R154 centering tool. And then in here is a standalone Haltech Elite 2500, which we will be doing this in a different video. So in terms of pricing, what I paid for everything, including the standalone and the twin plate, I want to say north of $7,000. I'm pretty sure you can do the swap OEM for around $5, maybe $5,500. I'm not too sure how it is now due to the tariffs, but definitely do your research and definitely hit up either Jason Smith or Alex, as usually had me like, and they will take great care of you. All right, first things first, we need to get the Mark II on the quick jack. So what we need to do is take off the kit, put the Mark II on some wheel dollies, and that'll give us enough clearance to get the quick jacks on. All right, got the Mark II on the dollies and on the quick jacks as well, just utilizing the frame rails instead of the pinch wells with some rubber isolators. Gives us plenty of room to drop and install the transmission. So I'm thinking right now, I'm going to go ahead and take out the seats and then the center console and essentially just get the gear selector out first. We'll go underneath and drain the transmission and take out the linkage cable that connects the gear selector to the transmission. All right, seats have been removed, pretty self-explanatory. Got the center console out. Don't forget about this 10mm bolt that is inside the armrest there. And then you're gonna have to remove the trim panel here, which is a plastic pry tool. Pretty easy. And now our gear selector is exposed. Go ahead and take out the electrical connectors. And then I believe it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 10mm bolts to get the assembly out. And then there's gonna be a linkage cable on the bottom. All right, got the exhaust removed for adequate clearance. Just got done getting the shifter linkage cable out or rod out. Got the front half shaft out. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try and finagle all of the sensors that are on the left and right hand side of the transmission. They're a little finicky to get to, but just be patient and do your best. All right, everybody, just got the transmission out. I was trying to film me removing the transmission, but couldn't get a good angle, and just me doing this at this time. But honestly, not too bad getting the automatic transmission out. Again, there are 1, 2, 3 sensors, 10mm, 10mm, and then another. This one was pretty easy to unclip. And then on the other side, you got the main automatic transmission sensor. What you can do is lower the transmission a considerable amount to have good access to all of the bolts. And then for the bell housing, I believe there was 11 bolts consisting of 14s and 17s. And then for the top bolts on the bell housing, those are also going to be 17. What I ended up doing was essentially stacking a ton of wobbly extensions and regular extensions. I broke it free with this adjustable length ratchet, and then I just used a impact or hand wrench to get them out. Honestly, it wasn't too bad. Again, patience is key. Definitely made a mess, a ton of automatic transmission fluid on the garage floor. But at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up and then remove the torque converter. And we'll start with the rear main seal and also installing the new pilot bearing. All right, just got back from the hardware store, picked up some M10 by 20mm bolts and washers. Almost ran me 20 bucks for these. I mean, granted, they're grade 10 bolts, but when did hardware become so expensive? Also got some industrial degreaser. We're gonna go ahead and clean the work area real quick. Then when we're done, we'll go ahead and remove the torque converter, the flywheel, and begin our Agora mock-up of the push-to-pull conversion. A couple of things we need to do to the R154 transmission, which is pretty easy. The instructions are pretty clear. And then we'll go ahead and get the flywheel and all the other plates mounted to the 1JZ. Just waiting on a buddy to come help me hold the crank bolt while I torque all the bolts to spec. Once that's done, we can go ahead and start cutting open a little bit of the transmission tunnel. We'll get that nice and primered, put some edge trim around it, put our transmission cover over it. Need to pick up some panel bond for that, and then once we're done with that, we can go ahead and do the pedal and clutch install. All right, just got done removing the torque converter. This thing is bulky, at least 28 pounds. So to remove this, you're going to need to take off these 6 14mm bolts. This went ahead and used an impact with a swivel on the end. And to find those, just get to the rear side of the motor, take off the inspection cover, and then there's your bolt holes there. So remove one, rotate it, and then remove the other 5. Now we can take off the flywheel. With the torque converter removed, we now have access to the flywheel bolts. Go ahead and remove those. They're going to be 8 14mm bolts. Just went ahead and used an impact and they came out pretty easy. And now with the flywheel removed, we have access to our rear main seal, which I think mine is leaking ever so slightly, or it could be this horrendous silicone job when it was previously serviced. But we're going to go ahead and put in a brand new rear main seal, clean up the mounting area. We'll go ahead and put in our new bearing, which is essential. Do not forget to put in the bearing. And once the bearing is in, we can go ahead and pretty much install our twin plate clutch. And I'm sure most of you know about this simple trick. If you don't have a seal puller removal tool, go ahead and drill a pilot hole. Nothing too big, but then go ahead and insert the accommodating screw, and then with some channel locks or some vice grips, go ahead and yank it out, and it should honestly come right out. This one, yes, it was definitely leaking. I'm gonna have to use some fine grit sandpaper to get rid of that excess silicone that you saw there. Go ahead and throw the new one in and start putting together our clutch. All right, just got done doing the pull to push conversion that our clutch provides for you. Got the fork assembly on, got the carrier bearing on. So the bolts back here are gonna be torqued down to 22 foot-pounds. You can blue Loctite those if you'd like to, and then the carrier bearing just slips on and everything is good. Go ahead and also grease up the pin that holds the fork on, as well as the area that the fork and the carrier bearing sit in. And then also go ahead and grease up that shaft pretty good as well. Anything metal to metal needs some grease. And then we'll finish the rest of this conversion with the slave once the transmission is in the car to make things significantly easier. All right, so just got the auto pedal out. Pretty easy to get to. It's gonna require you to have 2 14mm wrenches. Get that bolt out. There is a clevis rod and pin in here, and then this is where the 14mm bolt goes. Then you just go ahead and transfer over your little bump stop there, and then the plastic interlock pieces and this hollow cylinder, and then install it reverse order. All right, and now just got done installing the clutch pedal and the manual dead pedal. This dead pedal was such a pain in the ass. So what you do is these little grommets on the bottom there, and on top you want to rotate those 45 degrees, and then with your life just start pulling and hope you get it out. And then for the manual pedal, pretty easy. There is a 12mm bolt up there on top of the housing to lock the housing into, say, the firewall area, and it's just one bolt. And then coming into the engine bay, got the clutch master in. Super stoked on that. All new hardware, looking good. And then in between, that's going to be a paper gasket. There's going to be that silver bracket followed by the clutch master. All right, I want to apologize first off by saying sorry if each part of the video is a little choppy. I unfortunately put in my rear main seal a little bit too far forward, and it's supposed to sit flush with the housing, but I have a new one on the way, so within the next 2 to 3 days we should have it. Transmission on this ATV Harbor Freight stand. It should give me adequate room to essentially maneuver it into the motor, but I do have some friends coming once this is ready to go in. But at this time, we're gonna go ahead and chop up the transmission tunnel to fit essentially this upper portion for the shifter, which honestly you really don't need too much, but basing off pictures this is a little overkill. But we have the fiberglass tunnel cover to hide everything. So again, just gonna go ahead and cut out this outline here. Then I'm gonna go ahead and use this deburring tool to get the edges nice and flat. We'll go ahead and hit it with some spray paint so the metal doesn't rust. We'll put this trim edge over everything, and then we'll clean up these edges here, scuff them, and I'm just going to go ahead and use some marine grade JB Weld on these flaps here. I want to use panel bond, but it's like 60 bucks a bottle, and then with like the squeezer hand tool it's another 40, and just to use it on this I don't think it's worth it. And honestly I think JB Weld is going to work just fine. Also you can use some heat tape as well to keep everything down, but we shouldn't have an issue with that. All right, pretty easy. Got everything cut, got all the edges deburred. Now I'm going to go ahead and spray paint the exposed metal areas so it doesn't rust. Once the paint cures, I'm going to go ahead and use the edge trim like I showed you in the previous clip, and then we'll go ahead and put in our fiberglass trans tunnel insert. All right, paint is cured. You got the edge trimming on, nothing fancy. It's all going to be covered anyways. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is score the left and right side of the transmission tunnel so our JB Weld adheres nicely. I mean, what you could do also is put a rib nut where this grommet is and use a bolt to hold this down. But honestly, just JB welding the flaps should be more than enough. And just like that, our tunnel cover piece is in. I'm gonna let this cure for a good day before I mess with it. So hopefully that JB Weld holds up. If not, I'm just gonna go ahead and put some rib nuts on the flaps on the left and right side, and then probably, like I showed you in the previous clip, in here too, just to hold everything together. All right, so a couple of hours have gone by, slowly piecing together the interior. In terms of the tunnel, this thing honestly isn't going anywhere. It is pretty sealed up. And again, JB Weld marine grade. Give it a good generous amount, and yeah, not going anywhere. And I still have access to the bolts to remove this once we get the transmission mounted and tightened up. So at this time I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up the interior, and then we will resume the swap once my new rear main seal comes in. All right everybody, my new rear main seal showed up a couple of hours ago, just got installed. And when you are going to install this, it just needs to sit flush on the bottom housing groove. Doesn't need to go any more in. Just be very gentle and very careful. I just used a dead blow and a socket extender, and then just lightly tapped around and then in a star pattern, and now it sits nice and flush. Oh, that took a while, but now we can finally install the Agora twin plate clutch. All right, and like I mentioned a million times in the video, I went with a Agora twin plate clutch. I went with their 559D SE series. The SE series is their newest series in their line. It is all handmade, assembled, and balanced at factory. Full steel twin plate clutch, which is awesome. They also do supply you with some high tensile bolts, and I read up on the instructions. So essentially, if you're doing this per factory spec with a factory pull type clutch, I believe what I read on the forums, the torque specs are 60 foot-pounds of torque with some red Loctite in a star formation. For these ones, Agora recommends you torque these to 86.7 foot-pounds in a star formation utilizing Loctite series 242. And then with the upper plates, they want us to torque those bolts in a star formation at 28.9 foot-pounds. And we do have the Always Gaikin metal alignment tool, which is going to aid in our success to make sure that this clutch is super balanced and aligned. And also too, from factory, I just, with a white paint marker, just marked each section so I know the proper orientation. So I'm just gonna wait for either my girlfriend to get here so she can help me hold the crank bolt while I torque all these bolts down. And when that's done and good to go, we can finally drop in or stab in the transmission. All right, everybody, it's the next day or night. My girlfriend and I just got on the flywheel. I did 2 sequences in a star pattern, one at 40 foot-pounds and then the next one at 86.7 pounds. But again, depending on the hardware you're using, please follow the manufacturer procedures. So now I'm going to go ahead and brake clean the flywheel, and then we can just start assembling the twin plate and then finalize with the pressure plate. All right, everybody, just fully torqued down the Agora 559D SE's twin plate. Honestly, went pretty smooth, as well as the alignment tool came out smooth. But now everything is centered, everything's torqued down to spec. I did use red Loctite on these, or the 242. It's not red, it's like a medium. What they recommend, like I mentioned in the previous clips, again, torque these all down in a star pattern, and this thing looks super sick. So now tomorrow morning when my brothers come over, we're gonna go ahead and stab the R154. Then we can finally assemble the drive shaft, and also my custom steel braided clutch line came in. So definitely tomorrow we are going to get this thing operational. And then also once we have the transmission stabbed, I will show you the proper wiring sequence to enjoy your newly R154 swapped Jzx. If you are running the auto ECU, if you're gonna swap over to a manual ECU or a standalone, this next step doesn't matter. But I will also post the wire diagram and some form pages in the description below via a link. Viewers, the Mark II is now officially manual swapped. Just went ahead and got done with installing the shifter. Coming down to the bottom of the car, I did do this all by myself. Voila, you can see. Well, I got everything else with the drive shaft. I'm gonna do that after this clip, but everything lines up as it's supposed to. Everything is good, got every single bell house bolt on. I did put the 242 Loctite on every bolt, and I torqued every bolt down in a sequence star pattern at 30 foot-pounds. I got the push slave on, and I like how it sits nice and comfy in that groove there. And then we have the clutch line all ready to go and zip tied out of the way. This really honestly wasn't that bad. So initially what I did was, I'll show you with jacks, I used 3 jacks. I used 2 to essentially support and bridge the transmission from the mount and then to the bottom here with a microfiber so we don't damage the housing. I then just jacked them up so they were sitting even, the spline to the 1JZ, and then I just gave it a little bit of a wiggle and it slid about 3/4 of the way in. And then to get the extra quarter, I went ahead and of course installed all the bell housing bolts, and then in a star pattern slowly just cranked them all down, and now everything sits nice and flush. So if you have 3 jacks or even 1 jack, you can definitely do this yourself. But incredibly stoked how everything came out. And in terms of the hole I made in the trans tunnel, I barely clear it, but it clears. So for future reference, I will just cut a little bit more than what you need. Let's go ahead and get this drive shaft on. And then my buddy Brian is coming over right now, and we're gonna go ahead and bleed the slave. And then after that, I'll show you how to do all of the wiring to get your auto ECU to work with the manual transmission. All right, everybody, it is the next day. Last night, the boys and I got the Mark II running. Everything is currently working as it should, and right now just gonna go with you all briefly on what to do after your swap has been essentially completed. So we got the drive shaft in, we got the slave bled, clutch feels good. Just need to adjust the pedal to my liking. But after you do the swap, you are going to have to adjust your idle. So when the vehicle is running, go ahead and take out this plug here to your IAC. You're going to want to adjust 2 screws. You got one up here, the locking nut is an 8, and the little screw is an Allen key. It's going to be a 2.5. And then right here, if you can see, there's another one, kind of hard to get to, but you're going to have to accommodate the thread length for the upper portion, and that'll fix any idling issue when you're driving and you come to a complete stop. Coming down to the car for the wiring, which I'm currently finishing up. In order to get your Mark II to start, you're going to have to, I'm going to leave the diagram or in the form pages that I'm currently using with the wiring diagram. I'm going to use that in the description below, so please click those links and utilize them. I will also leave some pictures on the screen for you, but here is the auto ECU automatic transmission plug. So what you want to do to get the car started is you're gonna have to bridge start point A and B, which is black and red and white. Can't miss it, and you're just gonna go ahead and bridge those, okay? And then if you are going to stay on an auto ECU, you're going to want to use the potential of the 1J, so you're going to have to loop second gear, which is green, and the 12-volt ignition, which is going to be red and blue. So let's go ahead and loop those. And then to get your reverse switch to work, what you want to do, if you already have this essentially little setup that I do that you can get from Toyota, or I'm sure a handful of companies make, pretty easy. With the black wire, you're going to utilize that for a power source, and then a signal source. The white wire, you're going to tap into your reverse wire, which is going to be red and black. I'm going to seal that up for you guys real quick, and then once that's all done, you can start the car, and honestly, everything should work. All right, so getting in the Mark II. Which is nice. So clutch, got this weird squeak going on. It's like the spring on the plastic, but that's good. So clutch in, reverse. And there we go. We got the lights. Now let's go ahead and clutch in, neutral. Let's go ahead and put the e-brake down and start the Mark II. No lights, which is awesome. It's running good. So I'm gonna go ahead and clutch in. Yeah, that clutch shatter is crazy, but first gear, clutch out slowly. And now, we got the wheels moving, baby. Honestly, I would say a very successful install. All right, got the car warmed up. Just gonna go ahead and pull forward, back it up, pull it in forward again, and we should be good to go. Mark II is working, driving, everything is good. Just needs to do quite a bit of adjustment on the clutch pedal. I feel like it's too far forward because I barely release it and it lunges forward, which I like. So to me, that makes me confident that the Mark II and this clutch is very streetable, very easy to drive. It feels very light, but again, some minor clutch pedal adjustment, we should be good. I'm assuming because the transmission is brand new that the gears need to be worked in more. I do have to put a little bit of pressure to throw it into reverse, but getting into all the other gears works fine. So yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. This took me a good week to do, just because I'm super busy all the time, but this is definitely a one-day job. If you have a lift and some friends, you can definitely knock out this job in probably 6 to 8 hours. All right, everybody, and on that note, that is all I have for you in this video. I want to get this video out to you all as soon as possible, and if you find it helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. If you have any questions about this swap or any other pointers, please be sure to let me know in the comments below, or hit me up via Instagram is the best place to reach me. Again, I did this essentially by myself, took my time. Just again, you need a buddy for torquing down the flywheel, and then of course to bleed the slave. Well, I guess if you have like a gravity bleeder or a pressure bleeder, that'll work too. But if I can do it, you all can definitely do it too. But thank you again, everybody, so much for the continued love and support. And if you're new to the channel too, hit the subscribe button, that'd be awesome. And remember, aim high, drive low. I'll catch you next video. Take care.